Every number on this ladder so far has been about getting your own life handled. 100,000 changed how the world treated you. 1 million made work optional. 2 million turned that option into a life. 5 million is where money stopped being about your lifestyle at all, where your life got fully solved and your wealth turned outward. And now you are standing at $10 million. This is the top of the personal money ladder, and it is different from every milestone before it, because at 10 million, the money outgrows not just your needs, not just your wants, but your entire ability to spend it. You now have more than you could get through in several lifetimes. Your life was solved a long way back. So at 10 million, the question is no longer, how do I take care of myself, or even how do I live well? Every version of that question has been answered. The only thing left to decide is the one thing money was never able to answer for you. What is all of this actually for? And what mark do you want it to leave when you are gone? Here is exactly what changes the day you reach $10 million. Here is what you will understand by the end of this video. 6 things become true at $10 million that no smaller number could give you. The first is that you cross into the genuine top. You are not doing well anymore. You are statistically one of the richest people in the country, and rich stops being a comparison and becomes a fact. The second is that the money becomes literally unspendable on a normal life. It grows faster than any sane lifestyle could ever drain it. The third is that you gain the power to permanently change other people's lives at a scale that used to belong only to institutions. The fourth is that your wealth becomes mathematically immortal, a perpetual machine that will outlive you, your children and theirs, unless someone actively destroys it. The fifth is that defense becomes the entire game, and the thing most likely to take your fortune is no longer the stock market, but taxes, lawsuits, and your own heirs. And the sixth is the one this whole milestone has been building toward. The only question left is legacy. What you want this money to become after it has finished doing everything it could ever do for you. Below 10 million, money was a tool for your life. At 10 million, your life is finished business and the money becomes a tool for the future. Let me show you. There is one idea that explains why $10 million is not just a bigger version of 5, and it is the same rule we have leaned on at every single step. The 4% rule says you can safely draw about 4% of a diversified portfolio each year, raise it with inflation, and have strong historical confidence the money outlasts you. Walk it up the ladder one final time, because the top rung is the whole point. At 1 million, 4% was 40,000 a year. Freedom, but a careful one. At 2 million, 80,000. A comfortable life, for life. At 5 million, 200,000. A fully solved life with room to spare. Now run it at 10. $10 million at 4% is $400,000 a year. 400,000. Inflation adjusted forever, without ever earning another dollar. And if you simply let it sit and earn its long-run average of about 7%, it throws off something closer to $700,000 a year. More than you would ever spend living a genuinely luxurious life. Now hold that next to what we learned at 5 million, where your life already became solved. The house, the travel, the emergencies, all permanently handled, and the next dollar no longer improving your day. If your life was solved at 5, a second 5 million stacked on top does almost nothing for your comfort. Your coffee does not taste better. Your bed is not softer. The extra capital sails straight past the ceiling of what money can do for a person and just keeps piling up. And that is exactly why 10 million is the top of the personal ladder. It is the number where the money decisively, permanently exceeds the person. The job money was hired to do, take care of you, is not just finished. It is finished with an enormous surplus left over that has no personal purpose at all. That surplus is what the rest of this video is about. Because money that has nothing left to do for you is the most powerful and the most dangerous money there is. Unlock number 1. At $10 million, you cross into the genuine top, and rich stops being something you compare yourself toward and becomes a simple fact about you. For your entire climb, wealth was relative. At 100,000, you were ahead of most of your neighbors. At 1 million, you were doing genuinely well. At 5 million, you were wealthy by any honest measure. But there was always a tier above you, a room you had not entered, a number that made yours look small. At 10 million, that mostly stops. A $10 million net worth puts you, in most years, inside roughly the top 1% of households in the country. The phrase, the 1%, the one people use as a stand-in for the untouchably rich, is no longer a group you are looking up at. It is your address. Crossing into the top 1% does not feel like the movies. There is no card, no announcement, no velvet rope that parts. By now, you know the secret of every milestone on this ladder. The inside feels far more ordinary than the outside imagines. What changes is quieter and deeper, the end of a particular kind of striving, the low, lifelong hum of measuring yourself against people with more. Because at 10 million, the number of people meaningfully richer than you, in a way that changes how you can actually live, has shrunk to almost nothing. And that fact does something to your psychology, if you let it. The entire engine that drove the climb, the comparing, the reaching, the sense that the real arrival is always one tier up, can finally switch off. You are not almost there. You are not nearly rich. You are, by the cold math of it, at the top of the pyramid. The question stops being, how do I get more, and quietly becomes, what was all that getting for? That shift from chasing the top to standing on it is unlock number 1. Unlock number 2, and it is the one that finally makes sense of the promise that brought you here. At $10 million, the money becomes, in practical terms, unspendable. You now have more than you could get through in several lifetimes, and the math proves it. Let us do that math because it sounds like an exaggeration, and it is not. $10 million, earning its long-run average of around 7%, generates about $700,000 a year, every year, from money you never touch. Now picture a genuinely rich life on top of that. The big paid-off house, first-class travel, new cars, the best health care, generous gifts, anything in the normal catalog of luxury. Be honest about the number. And for the overwhelming majority of people, it lands around $300,000 or $400,000 a year, and that is living large. Which means the portfolio earns roughly twice what your most indulgent, realistic life costs. You are not drawing it down. It is still growing, even while you spend lavishly from it. That is the strange wall you hit at 10 million. To actually shrink this fortune through lifestyle, you would have to leave the world of normal luxury entirely and start buying the things designed to destroy money on contact. The private jet, the yacht, the second and third estates that cost millions a year just to maintain. You would have to work at spending it. For anyone living what a reasonable person would call an extraordinary life, 10 million does not run out. It compounds faster than you can consume it. Sit with what that means, because it is genuinely new. At every level below this, there was always a version of more that you could feel. A nicer house, a longer trip, a thicker cushion. At 10 million, you run out of meaningful things to buy before you run out of money. The bottleneck flips. For your entire life, the constraint was the money. Now the constraint is your own capacity to use it. And the moment money exceeds every possible personal use you have for it, it stops being a resource for living and becomes something you are simply holding. A force waiting for a purpose. That realization, that you literally cannot spend it on yourself, is unlock number 2, and it is the door to everything that follows. Unlock number 3, and this is where that waiting force first turns into something real in the world. At $10 million, you gain the power to permanently change other people's lives, at a scale that used to belong only to institutions. Think about what your surplus actually is now. Above the $400,000 a year that funds a more than comfortable life, your portfolio is still producing hundreds of thousands of dollars annually that you have no personal need for. That is not spare change. That is a private grant-making operation running every single year on autopilot. And what you can do with a reliable stream of surplus capital is the kind of thing that, until now, you probably associated only with charities, universities, and foundations. Make it concrete. With this kind of surplus, you could fully endow a scholarship, not sponsor one student for 1 year, but set aside enough capital that its returns send someone to school every single year, forever. You could seed not one small business, but several, becoming the person who writes the first check that lets an idea exist. You could back a cause at a level that does not just help around the edges, but actually moves it. You could be the reason a family member starts a company, a clinic stays open, a piece of your town gets built. At 5 million, we said money turned from survival into leverage. At 10 million, that leverage grows up. It stops being the occasional generous gesture and becomes a durable, repeatable engine for changing outcomes. And here is the part that matters most. This is the first form of spending that does not bounce off the hedonic ceiling. A bigger house does nothing for you at this level. A better car does nothing. But watching capital, you will never need change the actual trajectory of a real person's life. That does not get old, and it does not flatten out. It is one of the only uses of money at this altitude that still returns something to you, which is why so many people who finally cross into real wealth are surprised to find that giving it away becomes the part that feels alive. That power to permanently move lives at a scale that used to require an institution is unlock number 3. Unlock number 4, and it reaches further than your own lifetime. At $10 million, your wealth becomes mathematically immortal. It crosses a line where, barring active destruction, it will outlive you, your children, and their children. We touch the seed of this at 5 million, where a portfolio left alone could grow into an endowment. At 10 million, that idea hardens into near certainty. Run the numbers forward. $10 million invested at 7% and left completely untouched for 30 years grows to roughly $76 million. At a more conservative 5%, it still becomes around $43 million. Even at a cautious 4%, it passes $32 million. From one starting point, one generation of patience with nobody adding a cent. But the truly powerful part is not the size. It is the permanence. And at 10 million, the permanence becomes almost unbreakable, because you can live a full $400,000 life off the top, and the base still grows underneath you, since 7% of 10 million is far more than you are pulling out. A pool of money that grows faster than it is drained does not have an end date. It is no longer a sum that gets spent down over a retirement. It is a self-sustaining institution that funds a life at every generation and refills itself faster than each generation can use it. This is the moment your role quietly changes. Below this line, you were an investor, someone growing a number toward a goal. At 10 million, with the money now effectively permanent, you become something closer to a steward of an entity designed to outlast everyone currently alive. This is the level where the term family office starts to appear, a dedicated structure whose whole job is to manage, protect, and perpetuate the capital across generations, like a small institution built around a single family. You did not just get rich, you accidentally founded something, and the thing you founded is built to run long after you are gone. That immortality, capital that compounds past any life that touches it, is unlock number 4. Unlock number 5, and it is the one that quietly decides whether any of the rest survives. At $10 million, defense becomes the entire game, and the thing most likely to take your fortune is no longer the stock market. For your whole climb, the enemy was obvious, not having enough, and the volatility of the markets you depended on to grow. At 10 million, those worries shrink, because your fortune is now so much larger than your needs that an ordinary crash, even a severe one, does not threaten your life. A 40% drop still leaves you with $6 million and a six-figure income. The market is no longer the main danger. The real dangers move somewhere most people never see coming. The first is taxes, specifically the estate tax. The amount you can pass on before the federal estate tax takes a large bite is not fixed. It moves with the political winds, and large portions of it are scheduled to fall in the coming years. A fortune of $10 million sits right on the edge of that line, which means a meaningful slice of everything you built can be lost at death simply for lack of planning, handed to the government instead of to the people, and causes you chose. The second danger is lawsuits. Real wealth makes you a target. A single judgment, a single liability you did not insure or structure against, can reach assets you assumed were safe. And the third danger is the one people whisper about: your own heirs. Wealth that lands on people who are not prepared for it does not last. There is an old saying: shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The first builds it, the second spends it, the third has nothing. So at this level, the skill set flips. The traits that built the fortune, earning, saving, investing, patience, are not the traits that keep it. Keeping it requires structure, trusts, the right legal entities, asset protection, generation-skipping planning, and a deliberate effort to prepare the people who will inherit so the money does not destroy them. This is the unglamorous, deeply important truth of 10 million. Growing the number is behind you. Defending it, from taxes, from lawsuits, from your own descendants, is the game now. That is unlock number 5. Unlock number 6. And it is the one this entire milestone, and arguably this entire series, has been climbing toward. At $10 million, the only real question left is legacy. What you want this money to become after it has finished doing everything it could ever do for you. Step back and look at the whole ladder for a moment. 100,000 bought respect, 1 million bought freedom, 5 million solved your life. And 10 million has now done something almost eerie. It has answered every financial question you will ever personally have, with a surplus left over so large it cannot be spent and is built to outlive you. There is nothing left for the money to do for you. And when money runs out of things to do for you, you are left standing in front of the only question it was never able to answer on its own. What is it all for? This is no longer a financial decision. It is a decision about who you are, and it tends to resolve into 3 paths. The first is dynasty. The money's purpose becomes compounding across your family line, a permanent floor under children and grandchildren who do not exist yet, with the structure and the values in place to keep it from corrupting them. The second is giving. You decide that capital you cannot possibly spend should go to work in the world, funding causes, institutions, and people, often through a foundation that outlives you, the path the very wealthy increasingly choose when they pledge to give most of it away. And the third is building. You use the surplus to create something that did not exist before. A company, an institution, a body of work with your fingerprints on it that keeps running after you stop. Most people who reach this number never consciously choose. They drift, leaving the question unanswered. And an unanswered fortune does not sit quietly. It curdles into anxiety, into hoarding, into a scoreboard they keep watching for no reason. The ones who get this milestone right do the opposite. They sit down and actually decide what the money is for on purpose while they are alive to direct it. Because at 10 million, the money has become a kind of pen, and the only thing left to figure out is what you want to write with it before you set it down. That choice, the choice of legacy, is unlock number 6, and it is the real summit of the whole climb. So you are somewhere on the ladder, at 1 million, at 5, looking up at 10 and wondering both how that last stretch actually works and what is waiting there to trip you up. Let us handle both honestly, because the trap at 10 million is the most quietly cruel one on the entire ladder. The good news first. The boring formula still works, and 10 million from 5 is a clean doubling. By the rule of 72, money at 7% doubles in roughly 10 years, so 5 million left completely alone becomes 10 million in about a decade with nobody adding anything. That pure compounding path is real. But I am going to be straight with you, because honesty is the whole point of this channel. Plenty of people do coast from 5 to 10 on compounding and time alone. But many of the fortunes that cross deep into deca-millionaire territory had a catalyst layered on top. A business that sold, concentrated equity that paid off, a stake in something that grew. The boring portfolio reliably builds wealth to and through 5 million. The leap into the true top often has a story behind it, and that is okay. The index still gets you there with enough time, and the same discipline still protects whatever you build. But here is the trap, and it is the opposite of every trap below it. Lower on the ladder, the danger was always about money, spending too much, saving too little, getting too clever. At 10 million, your relationship with money is solved, so the danger moves to something far more valuable, your life itself. This is the level where people keep playing a game they have already completely won. The deca-millionaire still grinding 60-hour weeks for a 20th million he will never spend, still anxious, still comparing, still chained to a number that no longer changes anything about his days. He has the rarest thing in the world, enough, and he cannot bring himself to believe it. So he trades away the health, the time, and the relationships the money was supposed to buy back, chasing a score that affects nothing. That is the cruelty of the 10 million trap. It ruins you at the exact moment you are most free. So here are 3 rules to carry you to 10 million, and more importantly, to not be wrecked by it. Rule 1. Decide what the money is for on purpose. Dynasty, giving or building. Pick while you are alive to direct it, because an undefined fortune turns into anxiety and ego, and a defined one turns into meaning. Rule 2. Build the fortress, but do not move into the dungeon. Get the structure right, the trusts, the estate plan, the asset protection. Because at this level, that is what preserves everything. But do not let managing the money quietly become a second career that recages the very freedom you spent your whole life buying. Rule 3, and it is the most important sentence in this video, remember that you already won. Do not trade the life this money bought back for a bigger number that will not change a single one of your days. The whole point of the climb was to make money stop being the center of your life. Do not let it crown itself there at the very top. $10 million is not a richer version of your life. It is the end of the part of the story that was ever about your life at all. The freedom is won. The comfort is won. The security is won. What is left is the only question money was never able to answer for you. Now that it has done everything it can possibly do, what do you want it to mean? 5 million was where money stopped being about your lifestyle. 10 million is where it stops being about you entirely, where you cross into the genuine top, where the money becomes literally unspendable, where you gain the power to change lives at institutional scale, where your wealth becomes mathematically immortal, where defense quietly becomes the whole game, and where the only question left standing is what kind of legacy you want it all to become. The first million was the goal. The 10th million is where the money outgrows the person, and the only thing left to decide is what it is for. If this changed how you see the number you are working toward, drop a comment with where you are on the journey. We are building this community one honest milestone at a time. And as always, the line worth repeating every single time. This channel is for education, not financial advice. I am not your advisor. Learn it, question it, run your own numbers, and make the decisions that are right for your life. I will see you in the next one, where we leave the personal ladder behind entirely and step into $100 million, the level where money stops being wealth and starts being power, the world of dynasties, foundations, and the quiet handful of people who shape the industries and the rules that everyone else lives inside.